Radio, a constantly changing art form. Marconi. Lakehurst, New Jersey.
Oh, the humanity.
The Mercury Theater.
This is Orson Welles, ladies and gentlemen.
The New World Order.
Hi, this is Casey Kasem.
From that first broadcast, a medium that has been pruned, honed, trimmed, winnowed, bonsaied, pruned, and deposited here today, ready to be moistened with the watering can of evolutionary dew. This is the Dennis Miller Show.
What's up, Hiroshi? Let's light this candle. Hey, folks, welcome to the Dennis Miller Show. I am the aforementioned Mr. Miller, and we're awaiting the arrival of one Mark Steyn, Esquire. He will be joining us, syndicated columnist. His work appears at SteynOnline.com, and his latest book is After America. Get ready for Armageddon. And there I see his name. Marky Mark, how are you?
I'm doing great, Dennis. Good to be with you.
I just finished the Conrad Black autobio, or part 2 of his, about his travails.
Right.
And
That's a great book. That's a great book, by the way. I love the pen portraits of Henry Kissinger and others in there. They're absolutely lethal.
Folks, can I tell you how Henry Kissinger rose up by, well, put it this way. When there was actually a chance for people to get together or for it to be fractious, he went off into a corner and went into a semi-fetal position. He left you can see that you can become a figure for history by not leaving any prints in any way, right?
That's right. That's right. It's a marvelous book. I went to see my friend Conrad in federal prison in Miami a few weeks ago, and I must say it was a very demoralizing experience. Anyone who hasn't been to a federal prison should certainly do it at least once in their life.
Well, he's got to be due out soon, right, Mark? It's got to be.
Yeah, he's coming out in May. Conrad, for your listeners' benefit, was about the least anti-American, non-American on the planet. He ran pro-American newspapers in the United States, in the United Kingdom, in Canada, Australia, Israel, and under this sort of corporate governance fad, he wound up getting sentenced to jail, and he will be deported from this country and never allowed to set foot here. And it's a great loss to American. It's a great loss to American newspapering, and it's a great loss to the public discourse.
And he's loose on the tundra again, and I would imagine some of those weak cheese people who came at the Castle Black should be expecting to be in the docket soon, unless he's...
That's right. Well, you know, on this one-way deportation thing, I'm trying to persuade the Canadian Prime Minister to appoint Conrad as ambassador to Washington. So that...
Oh, he must laugh at that.
Stick one in the eye of the Federal Justice Department.
Does he howl at that when you say it? Did you tell him that already?
Yeah.
And
it's he's not entirely unaverse to it either.
Oh, that would be
we might have some sport with the Department of Justice before we're through.
If that comes up, please tell me. I'd love to be at that swearing in. That would be so funny. Anyway, we're talking to Mark Steyn. Not a little inside baseball, but the book was so good, and he turns up in it that I had to ask him about the estimable Mr. Black, or Lord Black, as they say. But let's get back to the issues. By the way, Mark will be on C-SPAN's Book TV this Sunday, starting at noon Eastern. Just a fun lark for you, or does that place sell books? I'm not hip to that one, Mark. I don't usually.
Yeah, it's like a 3-hour discussion on my oeuvre, and I'm sort of stunned to discover that I've got an oeuvre that will extend to 3 hours. But if it doesn't, I'm gonna. It's basically the pre-game show for the Super Bowl, because this is how it. I gather it's a ritual in American life. You know, I'm trying to be a perfectly assimilated immigrant here. I understand with the Super Bowl show, you got your halftime, you got your wardrobe malfunctions, you got your tailgate party, and I gather you have a 3-hour pre-game show on C-SPAN's Book TV too. So it's like the full American experience.
The full Monty.
Yeah.
The column, I must say, as I look this morning, I have to ask you this. I don't think the American voting public is interested enough. You know, people. Here's the difference. I say when people say they think they're dumb, I hear people on the left castigating the American voter as dumb. I always find that off-putting because I find wisdom in many different places in life. I do not think there's a big portion of this country that reads a lot about politics, though, because they find it so off-putting to their day-to-day life, they sort of stay non-involved and go on a gut thing. Now, when the unemployment rate goes down to 8.3% this morning, but you find out that the percentage is kind of going down or stabilizing because people are, whatever permanently means in that interview session, dropping out of the workforce. I don't believe the American public will note that nuance. And if this man gets it down into the high sevens, because people are no longer seeking work, I think he's reelected. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I think there's an element of truth to that. I mean, what has happened is that, particularly when it comes to working class males, they are basically leaving the workforce. According by some measures, there's a lower proportion of them in the workforce now than at any other time, and I think that's people just kind of giving up on work entirely. They're just saying there's no people are underemployed. People are making do with a bit of part-time jobs, with casual jobs. And the question really for the November is whether Obama can buck the facts on the ground. If the numbers look good, as you say, if he gets it down to 8%, 7%, whatever, but the reality is that people are paying $4 for gas and their friends are unemployed and their houses are underwater, then no matter what the numbers are, it's very hard to buck the facts on the ground. But he's a guy who's gotten lucky all his life, and the way things are arranging themselves, he may yet get lucky again this November.
Yes, I heard Limbaugh say yesterday, and God, sometimes he makes so much sense. It's eerie. He said, you will not feel, you'll feel this pain, you'll feel your anger towards Barack Obama, if not at the ballot place this November, to people in the moderate thing. He said, you'll feel it in the next 4 years. Trust me. Yeah. He said, because there's a chance here to head this off at the pass. He said, but freed up from the shackles of pretending he needs to be reelected for a second term, he thinks it's going to amplify in this, in the second term.
Oh no, I think there's no doubt about that. That a second term would be Obama on steroids. This little thing, for example, telling Catholic institutions that they got to be government condom dispensers. I think that kind of thing, he'll just steamroller anybody who gets in his way after November if he is elected. Because this is where I disagree with Mitt Romney. Mitt Romney's whole line on Obama is, he's a nice guy, but he's way out of his depth. I don't think he is particularly a nice guy, and I don't think he is out of his depth in the sense that he knows exactly what he's doing, and he doesn't want. He feels that Bill Clinton basically, did nothing but the intern pool for 8 years, and that was a kind of waste of a two-term Democratic presidency, and he doesn't want to be Bill Clinton, so he's not going to be interested in wasting time.
We're talking to Mark Steyn. His work appears at SteynOnline.com, and that's STEYN. His latest book is After America, Get Ready for Armageddon, and he will be on C-SPAN's Book TV, if you're ramping up in a more esoteric manner to the big game, this Sunday afternoon at noon Eastern. Mark, can you stay for a second segment, or do you have to go?
Oh, I'd love to stay.
I don't want to put you on the spot either. Do you have something to do, or you're okay?
I've got nothing to do. My engagement diary is completely blank for the next 2 months.
Well, as soon as I said that, I said, boy, you're painting him into a corner, but I meant it sincerely. We'll see on the other side of this with Mark Steyn. If you'd like to queue up 866-509-RANT, 866-509-7268. This is the Dennis Miller Show. Marvin Gaye documentary, Christian?
I think you've mentioned it, yeah.
Marvin Gaye comes in for the Motown Road show. Says to Barry Gordy, just make sure I'm not on after the blind kid.
That's right.
Perfect. We're with the author of the book After America, Getting Ready for Armageddon, nationally syndicated columnist Mark Steyn. You can see his work at Steyn Online with a Y, Steyn, and he's on this week C-SPAN's Book TV this Sunday afternoon starting at noon Eastern, a nice eclectic run-up to the Super Bowl. You know, Mark, the thing about Gingrich, and God, I shake my head at some of the way he goes about his business, but he does not kiss ass in the IMAX format. When he's in Charleston, he knows the harbor depth. When he goes down to Florida, he's talking about the moon. He's out in Nevada this week. No doubt he's got some comments on the scroll work on the front of the paddock that Wayne Newton keeps his Arabian horses in. The guy's a freaking... He's an inside nugget genius.
He's brilliant at it. When he was in New Hampshire, where I am, he was all up to speed on the Northern Pass thing, which is this big electrical power line coming down from Quebec and cutting a scar right down the White Mountains. He's on top of. I mean, Mitt said the problem, of course, with this is that he's in every state promising a new federal solution to whatever local problem he happens to discover. But I love the way he's like one of these guys. You mentioned Wayne Newton. He's one of these guys who whenever he's touring, he's got some little particular angle for wherever he is. Mitt just has the same stump speech. He reminds me of the great Ronnie Scott, the British jazz player, who whenever he was touring around, he used to just come on stage and go, it's a privilege to be back in your wonderful city of where the hell are we? And Mitt actually comes across like that. There's no local content whatsoever in his speeches.
No. I really do think we would be best served with some sort of latter-day Ray Milland, Rosie Greer, incredible two-headed transplant thing, where we just cleave Newt's head and suffuse it onto Romney's shoulder or something.
Well, I think if you put Newt's head on Romney's shoulders and Romney's hair on top of Newt's head, because when that last debate, I think the great political strategist Mike Murphy looked at Newt's hair and he said he looks like Bob Hope doing a Beatles sketch on TV in the 70s.
I didn't know you know Murphy. Oh, God, I'd love to hook up with you two for dinner some night. Murph has stand-up comedian chops, had he so pursued that. All right, we're talking to Mark Steyn. Once again, you can see him on C-SPAN's Book TV this Sunday afternoon, starting at noon Eastern. We've got some phone calls. Let's hit them. Rob in Vancouver. Rob, you're on with Mark Steyn.
Good morning, Mark.
Hey, Rob, is that Vancouver, British Columbia, or Vancouver, Washington?
Vancouver, British Columbia. We make San Francisco look like a Baptist barbecue.
That's true. And as someone who's been on trial in Vancouver...
my goodness, I remember that. I enjoy your work with Maclean's, and I always look forward to your articles. I just have a quick question. As you know, with your Canadian connection, we've been through 25, 30 years of socialism. We finally got a conservative a leader, and is there any advice you could give to the Republicans? Because it seems that our Prime Minister was up against the tide, and he got in somehow by sort of staying away from abortion and not mentioning his faith too much, but he got in. So I'll hang up and let you respond.
It takes a long time before you can reverse the tide. What I find weird about the present situation, people talk about the United States as the kind of powerhouse of the North American continent, and Canada is like America's attic, I think, as Americans sometimes call it. What I don't understand then is why every single bad Canadian idea from 40 years ago, as you mentioned, has taken off big time in the United States, whether it's multiculturalism, whether it's government health care, whether it's confiscatory taxation. So if the United States is the great kind of ideological powerhouse of the North American continent, I'm a little surprised why it's the attic that seems to be the place where all the big ideas take off. That is slightly unnerving to me.
Yeah, well, we should keep in mind that it's only political correctness and a demure nature that keeps Canada from running so many pipes into their soil and extracting so much of the lucre they have up there that they could be Sparta within a month and a half if they chose to be.
Yeah, well, and the water actually, because you fellas in the southwestern United States with the water problem. I mean, the Canadians are basically they're the House of Soud of water, and they're the House of Soud of toilet paper, because all this two-ply toilet paper that the environmentalists want to ban, that's all Canadian. If you had a trade war with Canada, you guys would be on single-ply toilet paper within 3 days. It'd be over.
You know what? Maybe we need a secondary. Maybe it's Keystone Pipeline 1 and 1A, one that runs water from Canada down to the southwest and one that runs oil. Everybody gives a little, everybody's happy.
That's right.
Let's go to Steve in New Jersey. Steve, how are you? You're on with Mark Steyn.
Great to talk to you. You're my second favorite Brit.
Really? Who's the first then?
Joan Collins in her 20s.
Oh,
Benny Hill.
You get no argument for me there. I was sitting next to Joan.
Quick question.
Wait, one second, Steve. Go ahead, Mark.
She put her chair back on the back of my coat, and my chair flipped over, and I fell into Joan Collins' lap. And I think this was circa 1992. I think that may be the best dining experience I've ever had in a London restaurant. So I'm with you on Joan Collins.
Let's go back to Steve. I'm sorry, Steve. I like a good anecdote. What's your question now?
Oh, I'm sorry. Gingrich was always saying that he's the legitimate heir of the Reagan movement and that Mitt is a Massachusetts moderate. But I feel so frustrated that Romney doesn't just say, Reagan was a Democrat before he was a Republican. Why can't he just say that and be done with it? Finish the debate.
Well, that's not entirely the case, because Reagan basically began his political transition in the late 40s, early 50s. So by the time he ran for president, he'd had kind of a quarter century to sort of marinate in that political philosophy. What I loved about Reagan was that he had the most fully formed world view of anyone who's run for president in the modern era, because he'd thought about this stuff an awful lot, and so philosophically he was very sound. Mitt, the problem people have with Mitt is that he's kind of picking it up as he goes along. So when he gives these answers, I don't mind if he says, hey, I don't, who cares about the very poor? I kind of like a bit of that. But when he started saying about, if necessary, we'll strengthen food stamps and we'll strengthen Medicaid and all the rest of it, that's not a conservative answer. And the reason he gets into trouble is because he hasn't thought about it in the way Reagan had done. Reagan was a Democrat in the 30s and 40s. He began his political transition in the late 40s, and by the time he ran for president, this stuff was in his bones.
Right, in his bones. And you know what? Obviously, everybody gives a damn about the poor to some degree. This is all semantic. It's just that, do you care so much about the poor that you keep them perpetually poor, and is that really caring about them? I remember in Paul Theroux's great book, Dark Star Safari, he said nothing more disheartening on the plains than to see the white Land Cruiser come up with the do-gooders who were perpetually going to keep Canada truly the dark continent. All right, Mark, we'll see you on C-SPAN's Book TV this Sunday starting at noon Eastern. Thanks for your time.
Always a pleasure, Dennis.
All right, Mark Steyn back after this. Dr. Jerome Corsi on The Dennis Miller Show.
The Dennis Miller Show.